Welcome to your how-to video for the Balanced Secondary Stressor Question Booklet. I am going to share with you a little bit about why I chose this particular way to offer this product, and then also, obviously, how to use it. So, I made it a physical product for several reasons. The first being, honestly, this represents hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of hours of my own experience as a wellness counselor, as a mother, and trying to help clients and doing research to help them and my family and myself. And I honestly just didn't want that spreading like wildfire being shared amongst everybody. Okay. The second reason is because in my mind, I imagined, and this comes because I was trying to do it this way, but I have multiple monitors, so it was probably easier for me. But most practitioners have a laptop, right? Where you're going to be like pulling up a report. And then if you had to pull up a document and you're switching back and forth between two and trying to scroll up to the right section, or you print it out and you're like writing on it, you have to print out more. It just seemed like a logistical nightmare, honestly. The third reason is because if you look at it, the individual questions, it's all laminated, so it's basically like a dry erase, right? So I can go through and with my dry erase marker, let's say I go to chemicals with somebody and I ask them, what do you do for work? What are your hobbies? What types of cleaning products do you use? Is there beauty products you use regularly? What are they? I can literally just, yep, that's an issue. Yep, that's an issue. Or if they say, are there beauty products you use regularly? You could say, yes. What are they? And you could, if they don't know, you just put a question mark. If they do know, you can literally write it out. And then whatever is necessary to transfer into like their records, you can do that. I am a big proponent of like, if it's not necessary to keep in their records, don't. Like I only want, otherwise it compounds the amount of time that you have to use to triangulate issues in the future if you write down absolutely everything into their file. And their life changes. So you don't want to use outdated information next time you have stuff, right? So I just note on there really quickly. So when I'm with a client, it's literally like line, scribble, line, word. You know what I mean? Line. And then after they leave, I literally just look at all the information together, triangulate it, and it's a lot easier to see patterns and just keep the information that's pertinent. Okay? So I'm going to show you how to use this. This is where this would fall in report interpretation is just like when we go over in training, you're going to look at the person's range and then you're going to look at their balancers and get that scaffolding for report interpretation, right? And then you're going to go to the wellness report and we're going to go down through there, right? So as far as secondary stressors, and I'm not saying to not look at, you obviously want to look at primary stressors and look at like your 4 core systems and things. But as far as digging in deeper with this secondary stressor booklet, your environmental stressors, with a few exceptions, are all going to be under the toxic stress section of your wellness report. Okay. The exception being phlegm, which is in the lymphatic section on the today's basic immunity report, and hazardous air pollutants, which is in the respiratory section on the today's immunity report. And then that's it. Those are the only 2 exceptions. Okay. The rest of them will show up or should show up here, at least the ones that are out of range, obviously, because the wellness report only shows those that are out of range and 0 responses. So we're going to take that example. Candida is my highest one. So we're going to go to the Candida section as if I am a client, and we are going to go through those questions, or at least some of them. Okay. So if I saw Candida really out of range for a client, I'm going to go to the Candida section and I'm going to ask them these questions. What is your diet like? How much sugar do you consume? My diet's not great lately. And in fact, when I ran this scan, I hadn't had sugar in a little bit. And then the day before, I actually ate quite a bit. So do you have any food cravings? What kind? Yes. Sugar. Do you have any skin issues? What kind? I have like a dry patch right here, and it gets worse actually when I eat sugar. Okay, so just really quick. Some of the questions in each section seem weird or unrelated. They're not, okay? They actually are under that section because there is a relationship with that. So if you don't know what that relationship is, that's perfect, right? You get the opportunity to do some research. You would literally just Google, like, let's say you didn't know Candida can cause skin issues. You can literally just Google, what is the effect of Candida on the skin? Or what skin issues are related to Candida? Or whatever, right? Okay. What is your, what color is your tongue? Is there a coating on it? Have them stick it out and look at it. This seems weird, but this is actually a normal part of like traditional Chinese medicine diagnosis. And I'm not going to get into all of that. However, I am going to show you this one particular thing. So I'm going to stick out my tongue for you. Okay, it doesn't look like there's anything real horrible with it, right? But if you notice, normally a tongue would be more, it's supposed to be more reddish pink, right? But mine is like a light pink. That's because there is a subtle white coating on it, which is an indication of the presence of Candida, okay? Do you have any bodily odors that have a yeasty smell? Do you have athlete's foot? How is your immune function? All right, so those ones aren't issues for me. And so I just go past them, right? So they'd be like, no, 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 no. And then I can look at like the next section, which is like parasites and whatever. Okay. I'm going to go through just a few questions that are in here. The way that these are set up tie back to those reasons for out of range responses that we cover in training, right? So we've got physical, terrain, emotional, energetic, vector, and simillimum. And so the questions in each of these sections are to help you determine what the reason for out of range response is. A lot of them, I'm going to say, right, are physical in nature because that's what we notice the most and that's what most people can relate to. And so if we're kind of, by process of elimination, right, if we're asking all these physical questions and everybody's like, no, 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 right, then it isn't a physical thing. It could be emotional, energetic, blah, 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 right? Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the standout ones and why they're there. There's going to be ones in here that you're like, wow, okay. And it's thorough. It's not necessarily exhaustive. So if you have like specific questions that you want to ask them, go ahead and ask them. There's even a place in the back of the book where you can add those. Okay. Under antibiotics, it's like, do you eat out frequently, right? Because there's a lot of like meats and foods and things that are raised with antibiotics, and then you get an antibiotic issue or get a bacterial issue because you've been exposed to antibiotics. Artificial sugars and sweeteners. Do you often chew gum, or have you recently? What brand? So many gums have aspartame in them, and a lot of people have issues, blood sugar issues, literally because of those sweeteners. How do you feel about bacteria? Excuse me. Chemicals. What do you do for work? What do you do for hobbies? What types of cleaning products do you use? Endocrine disruptors. And interesting, here's a good question. Some of these questions are to just inspire your client to then get in the habit of having their own stewardship over their health, right? So things like, do you drink bottled water? Simple yes or no, right? Or is your water bottle made of plastic? Okay, if they say yes, it's like, is it BPA free? They probably know whether it's BPA free or not. Most things say BPA free now on them. If they say yes, then you can also ask, do you know if it is also BPS, BPF, phthalate, and PBDE free? They're probably not going to know that, right? Because it doesn't have to be listed. The only way they would know that is if they look at, if they're familiar with like the little recycling number things. But what that does is it lets them know there are more things that they need to look into than just BPA. And it might engender a switch to like glass or stainless steel or whatever, just for them to be more aware of like, oh, there's probably things that I have no idea about. And to go on their own journey with trying to find those. Okay. Under food stressor additives, this is one that most people are not going to know the answers to these questions. They might. They'll know the answer to some of them. But like, do you eat or have you recently eaten foods that require by industry standards for them to add in any anti-caking agents? What foods, right? And then it gives you example, anything powdered or in chunks. So with that, if I saw food stressor additives come up, I would ask those questions. Let's say I get to that question and they're like, well, I don't know. You could say, okay, do you consume anything that's powdered or chunked? And they'd be like, oh, well, I do a pre-workout before I exercise. I say, okay, do you know if there's any anti-caking agents in there? And sometimes on the labels, it'll say blah, 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 anti-caking agent, right? And then anti-caking agent in parentheses, but a lot of times it won't. But that gives them the ammunition to be able to go and look at it, right? And they're like, oh, I don't see any. And you can invite them to Google search, like, what are industry standard anti-caking agents commonly used in foods? And we'll give it a list, and they can actually start now looking for those things in their stuff. And they might be like, oh my gosh, this totally has that in there. What does it do? What might I expect from this? And then they might make the choice to switch to something healthier, right? So the point, I'm a big advocate of let's try and arm our clients with the information that they need in order to learn how to take stewardship of their health, how to do research, how to be proactive about their own health journey. It's also, let's see. Fungi molds. Do you burn any candles, use wax warmers, or incense, right? There's chemical reactions that happen with some of the scents in there that can cause mold in the lungs. Okay. Let's see. I just want to make sure if there's any kind of ones that stand out that are a little weird. Parasites came up on mine. I'll share this with you. I got a spider bite 2 weeks ago on my arm. It says, and one of the questions is, do you have any insect bites? Was your body's response what you would consider normal? I still have like a little mark where it is. And I would think that would be healed, and it still itches, which is really weird to me. Okay. And then we get into the beneficial secondary stressors. And where we would look for those is under diet and nutrition, right? You can see there's digestive enzymes, essential fatty acids. So then I could look at if there's any really high ones of those, then I would go to that section and answer those questions for the person. That makes total sense for mine. Candida and parasites were two of my top ones. Digestive enzymes, break those down. Pretty self-explanatory. And I can also come in here and say, okay, do you take enzyme supplements? What kind, what dosage, for what, right? Because they might be taking them for actually breaking down food. They might be taking them for allergies. They might be taking them for pain, or other issues, right? Under essential fatty acids, like, do you eat fish? Are they vegan? Are they doing like a plant-based alpha-linoleic acid, which is much harder for the body to absorb? Okay. And then the vitamins section here, I want to share with you just a little bit about that, because this is set up, I like this section a lot. It's set up in alphabetical order in chunks of what questions about the symptoms that are a result or can be a result of deficiency in that particular vitamin. It's not saying, like, right, when we see vitamins on the wellness report, we know that's not saying specifically that the person has a deficiency. They could, but an outer range response doesn't specifically tell us that. But by asking questions, we can determine how to move forward. So it goes through, like, all of the A's are first, and then like A, B, etc. Okay. So if I ask the question, are you itchy? And the person's like, yes, that could be related to vitamin A, right? Especially if, like, there's no other reasons why they're itchy that you can figure out, and you see A come up in their whatever it's called. Okay, so my rescan suggestions are right here. These make sense because a lot of them are related to inflammation, which ties definitely back into the candida and the parasites and the digestive enzymes. My sixth product here is a K supplement. So if I go through and I ask myself the K questions, what is your skin color? K is related to red or purple spots or rash on pale skin. I do have a little bit of that. Not like the spots, not the rash or anything. Do you experience any muscle weakness? Where? How is your mood? Do you have any issues with or changes in appetite? K deficiency causes loss of appetite. Do you have any bleeding or blood vessels? Right. So I can actually go through all of the K ones. And if it's like, yes, 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 then whether it's a rescan suggestion or not, you can encourage that person to take that supplement. If it is a rescan suggestion, you just got a whole bunch of reasons why the body might want that. And especially if it is a primary concern, right? Like if somebody has a skin issue and it could possibly tie back to a vitamin that it looks like maybe they're having a deficiency in because they're experiencing a lot of symptoms from that. I would absolutely add that in because that is going to help that person, right? We always want to help support what is going on in the body overall with the body's responses from the reports. But if we can also address a primary concern, that's a win. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. The last part we're going to look at as far as the booklet is lifestyle areas. I threw those in there because, right, it's things that we do that affect our body from the outside. Hydration is my highest one. So if I'm looking at there, I can ask, what supplements do I take? Do you take electrolytes? Obviously, electrolytes help with hydration, but I would ask, like, what supplements do you take? Maybe they're taking supplements that are diuretic and they're just not drinking enough to balance that effect. Do you eat fruit, right? That's really high in a very usable water for our bodies. Okay, so, okay, under mental emotional stress. I wanted to share a couple of these because they go through individual, I don't want to say lifestyle areas because that's a specific actual term in the reports, but areas of life. How about that? So that you can better determine maybe why mental emotional stress is coming up as out of range. Like, how are you doing financially? How do you feel about your finances and why? How are you doing physically? How do you feel about how you are doing physically, etc. There's just tons of questions under there. Let's see, under the toxic stress section, it tells you if toxic stress comes up as out of range to check your secondary stressors and then to go to that section and ask those questions. But if, let's say toxic stress is really out of range, but none of the environmental secondary stressors are very much out of range, here are some general questions about toxic stress that you can ask the body. The last thing in the booklet is additional questions. This is an opportunity for you guys. If you come up with any additional questions, there are 2 pages. Obviously yours doesn't say opportunity on it. There are 2 pages for you to actually write out questions. You can do them permanently or whatever you want. If you fill up this page and take a picture of it, you will get a percentage off of your next training material purchase. Just because what will happen is I will use that. It's a thank you, because I'll use that in a second edition or whatever, and it will help tons of people. So I want you to have that. But anyway, so this is our secondary stressor booklet, guys. Please let me know if you have any questions at all. Again, there's training information and offerings on the back. You're more than welcome to reach out to me as well and just ask me questions about the booklet, about training, whatever you need.